Howdy y'all, Editor Robbie here. After looking through the footage and getting this video all sliced up, I realized, yeah, I done messed up. I forgot to shoot an intro. And we use a couple terms here that might be confusing to some newer audiences. So I'm going to throw it back to Grandpa Leroy from 2021 when we had long hair. And yeah, let him do the intro. How's that sound?
Howdy you whippersnappers, Leroy here, grandfather to Robbie. I'm one of those cool grandpas though, don't you worry. I'm on Vine.
Dude,
Huh?
Vine is dead.
Oh, well at least I'm still on MySpace. Well, Robbie's about to do his in the bag, and he's gonna use a lot of terms that a lot of you youngins don't know, so I thought I'd explain a couple things real fast, so when he talks about it, it's less confusing. The first thing he's gonna talk about is hyzer. Hyzer is when the outer edge of the disc is pointed downwards. It usually creates a C flight. An anhyzer is when the disc is released with the outer edge pointed up. Kinda like my cholesterol, always on the rise. Another set of terms you'll hear him use is overstable and understable. This means the disc's desire to go on its intended flight path. For example, a right-handed player throwing a backhand, an overstable disc is going to go left. An understable disc will go against the desired flight path and have the ability to go right. Now there are two terms related to overstable and understable, and that's beefy. No, I'm not talking about that kind of beef. Beefy means the disc is super overstable. If it flips over, that means that it's too understable. The last term you're gonna hear him use is hyzer flip. A hyzer flip is when a disc is released on a hyzer angle and goes to a flat flight. This is traditionally used in wooded courses and tight tunnels. That's all I think I need to teach you. I'll let Robbie take it away with his frisbees.
Dude,
Huh?
they're called discs, not frisbees.
Who knew? Things change all the time.
What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we are out in a random park in the middle of the woods filming a video that you guys have asked about ever since you found out that I left Team Innova, and that is
What's in the box?
or maybe what's in the bag is a little better. We're gonna work through what's in my bag right now that I found confidence with, and I'll be carrying through the rest of the 2022 season and likely into the start of the 2023 season. Let's dive on in. So let's dive into arguably one of the most important parts of the bag, especially for my game, and that is the putters. For putting putters, I'm currently trying out the Dagger by Latitude 64. I am using them in the Sense plastic, and I'm in a trial period coming over from EMAC Judges. Two of the things that I really like about the Dagger is because it's so deep, I'm not tempted to like extend my fingers all the way out to hold onto the disc. I'm almost tempted to sort of curl them up so that I have a better grip, which gives me more pop on the disc. And I actually notice a bit more glide on these when it comes to putts. At the end of the day, it's a putting putter, so I don't think there's anything particularly crazy about it, but I have just enjoyed my time with the Dagger. But regardless, I'll be sticking with daggers at least until the end of 2022. Next, we move into throwing putters, and of course, you can't talk about Robbie C without mentioning the Polecat. Polecat is probably one of my most used discs in my game right now. The watermelon die was done by Rick Peavy of Dark Side Dies. Starts out pretty overstable, but the more I beat it in, it gives me some reliable turnover shots. But really, the key that I'm going to use it for is I warm up with it by playing catch with someone that I'm playing with. And when I get to the course, I can translate that sort of catch shot into giving aggressive runs at the basket, whether I'm 50 feet out or 100 feet out. And most often, I'm either throwing it in or hitting an intense amount of metal, which is putting me right next to the basket, and at absolute worst, it's putting me like 15 or 20 feet past the basket for an easy comeback with those daggers. Mission 1 of the Polecat gang was to get this thing made in premium plastic, aka Halo, and mission 2 is to get people to stop calling it a meme disc. The fourth putter that I have in my bag is this premium plastic Sensei by Discmania Discs. I love the Sensei. When this disc came out, I was introduced to it by Nate Perkins at a clinic that he did over in Tupelo, Mississippi. I've tried other throwing putters in this slot, but the beautiful part about the Sensei is it beats in to give a nice decent amount of flip up, but it also has some sneaky stability to it, so you can really jam on it, and it's pretty torque resistant for me personally, so I can still expect some fade at the end, especially if I started on some hyzer. But if I'm really looking for fade, I'm gonna go to what closes out my putters, and you guessed it, you can't have Robbie C without having some pigs in your bag. I have 3 pigs that are currently in my bag, and I use them for a variety of shots because they're all seasoned into a specific shot. Starting in the most understable, we have the disc that you guys lovingly know as my precious child. This thing does not fly like a pig at all. In fact, the only things that tell you it's a pig are the stamp that's on it, the fact that it has a groove track or a thumb track to it, and the fact that I can throw it with some anhyzer and know that it's not going to just burn over and turn into a roller because it still has that little bit of sneaky pig stability. But sometimes I need to know that I can jam on a pig and still have some fade at the end, and that's where War Piggy steps in, and my War Pig is my straight pig is what I like to call it. If I'm ever looking for a shot that especially I need to throw like a super straight forehand and maybe have a little bit of finish at the end, I'm always going to go to the straight pig of this War Pig right here. But the pig that probably sees the most action is our workhorse, which is a current 21 Ricky Wysocki R Pro Glow pig. This thing is still super overstable, and if you find some of the Ricky pigs, not the Bradley pigs, the Ricky ones are pretty overstable out of the box. In fact, I think they're the most overstable, but once they beat in, they become really reliable, really fantastic discs that you can just lean into and put so much power and torque into. I can throw this about 280 and know that it's still gonna fade at that 280 foot mark, which is super helpful for me. That's my putter lineup, and I feel confident in most any course I go to, I can make one of those discs work for the shot. That is where my game absolutely thrives. I do have two honorable mentions that I think will be modifying my putter game slightly when we get towards the end of this year, especially in the upcoming weeks, but I can't talk about those until they arrive, and well, I'll give you a little sneak peek when we get to the end of the video. How's that sound? Next up, we have another category that I love throwing those types of discs. You'll notice that I tend to not have a great relationship currently with discs that start with a D and rhyme with Cyber? Miver? Yeah. You get it. We got our mid-ranges. I have 6 mid-ranges in the bag, and one of them is in there on a trial basis only, but we'll start on the understable side once again. I have 2 Origins by Discmania discs in the bag. I have this Geoplastic Origin, which is the most understable disc in my bag. This mold is a classic example of do not trust the flight numbers whatsoever. If you're looking at the flight numbers of an Origin, you would think that it should have a similar flight to a Buzz, although it flies significantly less stable than a Buzz does. My Geoplastic Origin is going to turn all the way over, and on a backhand it's going to go right basically whenever I throw it if I give it enough height and enough time. This is super helpful for me on wooded shots, especially when I need to hit a tunnel. Having a natural hyzer release, I know that I can jam on it pretty hard. It's going to stand up and fight that tunnel shot. The more overstable complement of that is this Neo Origin. Notice that like it's the chosen one from the Matrix trilogy rather than the Earth one of the Geo. This premium plastic one definitely has more stability to it. Most often I can rely on it to flip up to flat, but not necessarily worry about it turning all the way over, or at least that was the case when I first started throwing it. The more I beat this disc in, I'm finding that it's doing that flip up more and more. But if I throw it flat, it's definitely going to turn over, and if I throw it on a turnover line, it's going to hold that line extremely well, unlike this guy that's probably going to turn into a roller. I could definitely see a world where the Geoplastic one sort of falls out of the bag because I have a Neo that is seasoned and actually flips over, and then I put a new Neo in the bag to fill that original Neo slot. So for a more stable option, I have actually put a Fission Hex in the bag. After watching Hunter from Foundation throw a Hex all over my face at the Creators Cup, I decided that it was probably time to give the Hex a try. And once again, not judging discs by its flight numbers, I wanted to see if it was actually understable or not. So this Fission Plastic one that is brand new is at 166 grams, and I figured this is going to be the most understable version of a Hex that comes out, so wanted to try it out and see if it could actually push out one of my Origins and become a real slot there. Howdy, howdy, y'all.
How you doing, man?
Doing swell. How are y'all?
Crispy go?
Yes, sir.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
YouTube?
Yes, sir.
Cool. For real? You mind if I put my face in? I just want
Hey,
to say,
come on, come on.
Hey.
Yeah. Moving up from the Hex, I actually have one of my favorite discs that I've thrown, especially in the MVP lineup, is the Reactor. I have 2 reactors in the bag. The first is this Fission Reactor. I can throw it straight for 300 feet and know that still at the end of it, it's going to fade off, which is really reliable and something that you don't really find in a Buzz or a Rock or a EMAC Truth or something like that. This is signed by Mac Fairway Farrell, who is looking to get on Team MVP, and yes, this is his first ever signature, so it's pretty much the most special disc in my bag and probably the most valuable, especially when Mac pops off one day and rules the world. Sorry, James Conrad, look out. The more overstable complement to the fission reactor is the Eclipse reactor, which comes in that glow plastic. There is a notable stability difference when you move from the fission to this Eclipse reactor. The beautiful part about the Eclipse reactor is just how I know that this one's always gonna hook over. If I need mid-range distance, but I need the disc to be fading at the end of its flight, the fission reactor is almost always gonna get the call for that. Or if there's a good amount of wind, I'm gonna throw the fission reactor as well. Signature on this one is by Bo McLaughlin, who's actually on Team MVP, and he saw the Mac Farrell signature and said, yeah boy, gotta make sure I represent that. So this is the reactor gang, and these signatures always give me a laugh when I pull these out. Probably my two most thrown mid-ranges in the entire bag. And of course, you cannot have the bag without having the super overstable complement to it, which is a Dynamic Discs Justice. When I went and had the Innova bag, this is the disc that I missed more than most any other one, because Innova just does not have a disc that does what this does. The beautiful part about a Justice is that it will fade no matter how you throw it. You can throw it on some intense anhyzer forehand lines and it's going to fight out of it and crash. You can throw it just flat and it's going to fight out and crash. I actually can't throw this as far as I can throw my pigs, but if I know that I need that hook at the end of the flight or that fade at the end of the flight, the Justice is almost always getting the call, especially because not only is it going to hit and fade, but it's usually going to get some pretty decent ground action for maybe a big skip or something like that. This Digi Hulk stamp on it is also super sick. Like I said with putters, if I can make a putter shot work, most often I'm going to lean to it, but if the putter isn't going to be far enough, I'm easily going to step up to a mid-range because I have a ton of confidence with every single one of those in my bag. And of course, we can't have an in the bag without talking about today's video sponsor, Atlas Disc Golf Supply. It has been an honor to rep Atlas over this past year. You may notice that I run a disc golf podcast with All Business Brad, who's one of the owners over at Atlas Disc Golf Supply. Atlas lives on 3 foundational principles, which are affordability, sustainability, and durability. I love Brad and the team over at Atlas Disc Golf Supply, and it's crazy cool to me because they have a new product that's launching today while you guys check out this video. That's right, the Robbie C Velcro patch is now available for you to purchase over at the Atlas Disc Golf Supply website. This isn't some cheap little frilly patch. It is rubber. It's got this like raised, embossed feel to it, which is so crazy. When this logo was made over 2 years ago, I never thought it would be recognizable enough to even become a patch. It's crazy to think you could be rocking the Robbie C Birdie R on your bag as well. You can head over to Atlas Disc Golf Supply's website. You're going to see a link for it in the description below. I'm going to let you in a little secret. If you use code in the bag, which supports our podcast, you're going to see a little discount too, which, you know, discounts always be nice. I want to say thank you to Atlas for believing and supporting the Robbie C channel, and I am so excited to see where the future takes us with this company. The next aspect of my bag, the Fairway Drivers, is probably the slot that I have struggled with the most since switching away from Innova, and I think it's because when you're running with Innova in terms of Fairway Drivers, your decisions are like fairly locked in for you. If you are an Innova player, you're probably throwing a T-Bird, a Firebird, a Thunderbird, and possibly a like Leopard or something like that. So branching out and having a multitude of options to test while also trying to ensure that I didn't necessarily like stay full Innova simp was actually pretty difficult. So the disc that I tried a bunch of different options for, but actually wasn't able to find something that could keep the same mold and different plastics and still have that variety for me, is the Firebird. I've got 2 Firebirds in my bag. The first being a not really anything special. It's just a flat Champion Firebird coming in at 171 grams. You would think for not being a max weight Firebird that it wouldn't be as overstable, but that is the beauty of the Firebird, especially in the Champ plastic, is that this thing is just ridiculously overstable. I can throw it on some crazy forehand flex lines, but this Firebird definitely has its uses, especially as we head into the fall and winter where there are less leaves to stop the wind and things are going to get a little more aggressive in terms of trying to fight wind during my round. Now, the complement to the super overstable Firebird is an actual usable Firebird, which is why Sexton Firebirds exist. This guy guy is an absolute staple for me, especially on forehands. It's a 2021 Firebird that I have had since they dropped, and I absolutely love this thing. I know that I can throw it anywhere from about 300 to 350, hold it straight for that initial 300 feet, and then it's going to fade. Maybe not like a ton of fade, especially if there's like a headwind or anything like that, but this thing is beyond reliable. If I'm stepping up and looking at a forehand that's anywhere from, I would say, 290 to 330, odds are it's definitely going to be this Sexton Firebird every single time. One of the more surprising molds, and that is the Dynamic Discs Evader. I actually have 3 in my bag right now that represent a range of stability. So this red one in the Lucid plastic comes in at 175 grams, and it already is beat in enough that I can throw it on some hyzer, watch it flip up, and if there's any wind whatsoever, you're gonna see it actually has some turn to it. I can get that turn out of it by just starting it on less hyzer right out the gate, which makes it just as reliable as my favorite Eagle from back in the day. To test that theory a little bit further, I have a Fusion Evader, and the Fusion Evaders are actually new in 2022. They weren't really readily available, even though the Evader is a few years old. This Fusion one, I expect to beat in a little more than the Lucid one, but right now it actually is a bit more stable, and I think that's just because it's newer, because this has only been in the bag for a couple of weeks. However, I could see a world where both of them stay in the bag, just not quite sure yet, so we'll see how the battle goes between these two. Have to talk about this Hybrid Evader, which is absolutely fantastic. This is my meat hook evader. If you think about what I do with my reactors, where I have one that goes straight and still has some fade, that's what these do for me. And then this guy is like the Eclipse reactor that is going to go straight, and I always know that it's going to fade off at the end, but it's not as going to be as an extreme fade as my Firebirds will. It's just reliably going to hook up at the end every single time. So if I'm facing wind, or I need a stray shot and I need it to get left anywhere from about 300 to 350, this Evader is getting the call. It looks super sick, glows in the dark, and yeah, just absolutely digging this die. Rick crushed it again over at Darkside Dice. The last fairway driver I have, and like I said, where I would need your help on it, is a disc that I really didn't expect to fall in love with, but the first time I threw it, I audibly gasped and said, this is exactly what I've been looking for this entire time in my disc golf career. And that is the Discraft Sting. This disc is crazy good. I am all about the 7 speeds, as you can guess by the number of evaders in my bag. And in the Z plastic, the Sting off the shelf, when I throw it on hyzer, is going to flip up to flat literally every single time, which is exactly what I wanted out of this disc. Now, ideally, I'll have another version of this disc that I can throw on hyzer. It'll flip up to flat and turn, and that's going to come from one of 2 ways. Either having a beat-in Sting, which is definitely going to happen as I continue to love this disc and throw it over and over again, or if any of you watching happen to have a line on some ESP Stings, I would be eternally grateful if you guys can hook me up and give me at least the connection, or if you happen to have any that you're sitting on and you want to part ways with, let me know. We can do some tradies or some purchases. Whatever you want to do. Having thrown an ESP Sting, it is a flippier complement to this, and one of the things that I love about this Sting is that I can throw it on some sharp anhyzer and know that it's not necessarily going to turn into a roller. It's going to hold that anhyzer most of its flight, which is pretty awesome. So that wraps it up for our fairway drivers, and if you've ever watched an Innova in the bag, prepare yourself for the next section, because yeah, it was hard to get away from them. An important part of every bag isn't just the discs, but it's the bag itself and the accessories that come along with it. I don't know why I went like full salesman pitch there. Let's see what's in the side pockets. For the bag itself, we're using the Atlas Pioneer. This is the V2, V3. You can tell the difference because it's going to have multiple colorways, coming soon to an Atlas store near you. We got our handy dandy disc dots, so that way when we jam a big putt on people and they're like, wow, you're so good at putting, how'd you do that? You're like, disc dot, obviously. We have our Atlas chalk bag, which is fantastic. It's got like a side pocket that I keep pencils in, so that way you can like keep paper scorecards or sign those CTPs. I usually let other people borrow those because I don't traditionally hit CTPs. Inside of this bag, you've got your little chalk ball, which is fantastic, you know. Chalk surprise. Probably if I would have thought through that, should have done the chalk ball last, because now I'm everything's going to be chalky. Conveniently, we keep multiple flight towels on the bag. These are the Flight Towel Juniors. I always keep a Trash Panda Flight Towel Junior with me because, you know, Jesse, keep him near to my heart. And then this guy is just a standard Flight Towel Junior, so keep both of those on there. Jesse doesn't get the mud. Normal one gets the mud and gets cycled out for other ones. We keep a Robbie C Flight Towel Junior. This is usually the one that you're going to see my little towel tail that I keep clipped on me during pretty much every single round and even putting practice. I love these Flight Towel Juniors. It's a full-size towel, but with the fold in the middle, it doesn't hang or droop, so pretty fantastic. You should check that out. I have my Trash Panda Mini, one of many minis, but it is inside of another mini. I can't really see it when I put it in grass, and so this little blue halo actually helps me see it. These two come out first every round I play. Other things we have in here, we have the Atlas Scout, which is their rangefinder. Haha, Atlas branded, bang bang. I love this thing. It is super reliable. I think that there are a few things that can change your game as fast as a rangefinder if you spent the time actually dialing in your distances and know how far you throw everything. Next up, we keep a Sharpie so that when other people throw aces, we can sign and remember those discs, or if you buy a new disc or get a new disc, you can always put your name and contact info on it so it can get returned to you. We have a silver Sharpie thanks to Ben Swam at Dynamic Disc Iron City, because y'all are crazy awesome and I've been asked to sign discs during rounds, and if you have like a dark disc, obviously this doesn't work, so having a silver Sharpie to help out with that. And then other things we have in here, we have a second Trash Panda Mini because people always don't carry minis when they're supposed to have their minis, and yeah, because of that, we need to be able to help them out. We have a pack of crackers that once was, it's been a little smush, gonna have to replace that. Always keep a snack in the bag because I want to stay healthy. And this is a prescription bottle because prescription bottles don't let water in, but I keep Tylenol in my bag at all times because I get sinus headaches, and so the Tylenol helps relieve that pressure. And then the only other things we have in here are Slim Jims, another Sharpie, and then chapstick. In the other bag, I keep sunglasses. Always got to keep the sunnies fresh because you don't want the sun in your eyes, and also when you throw a decent shot in and now and again, you can block out the haters. Say what? As you can tell with my sinus issues, I also have asthma, so have to keep an inhaler on you at all times because you never know when that hill gets the best of you. I keep headphones in my bag. I realize that Katrina Allen holds the stance that like headphones should be illegal, and during PDGA sanctioned rounds, I always keep one headphone in and I keep my volume at one tick above silent, so that way there's just like a little bit of a constant like murr of music in the background, so that if I want to focus in on that and not be distracted or too focused on the game of disc golf itself, actually helps me hone in my practice quite often. We keep a Zing Mini in our bag. This works as a functional can topper in case you have an adult beverage or something with you as well. We also keep a normal flight towel with the Halo Star Splatter Destroyer fob on it, so I can use this for warm-up. I love using this for warm-up, especially if we end up like at a backup or something. Next mini I have is this metal mini from Airwolf Athletics. Airwolf was the first company to ever believe in me and sponsor me, so yeah, like they're always going to hold a special place in my heart. Also, if you play a Ripped Revenge round and you have to throw a mini, the metal one actually goes pretty far. Power bank, because I hate when people are like, oh, I can't keep score this round because my phone is dead. Sick, yeah, if you want to, here's the power bank, you can just plug on in. And I have a power cord for both Android and iPhone. Next mini we have is from DS Discs. I love this one. If someone asks to borrow a mini, I usually give them this one. I'm sorry, Jesse, I don't give them my Trash Panda Mini because that's a pre-flight number mini. DS Discs is magnetic. I have the hook in there as well, so it can clip on, but usually really cool reaction, and they can do custom stuff, so the team over at DS is fantastic. Love what they're doing. And then the last thing on this side is stickers. I always keep stickers on me. If you ever see me out on the course and you're like, hey, oh my gosh, ask me for a sticker, I keep loads of them on me so that I can always pass them out for free. The only other two things that I keep on my bag, and honestly what makes my bag be super heavy regardless of what bag I was ever using, is water. I'm a firm believer in hydration. Too many players get gassed while they're out there on the course. I always keep 2 full water bottles on me, and my goal is I will not finish the round without having drank both of these. The nice thing is the load gets progressively lighter as it goes on, and we stay pretty hydrated. You have cool stickers. This one's fresh, so need some more stickerage. Moving on to distance drivers, we have, I believe it is 7 distance drivers in our bag with 2 molds covered between those distance drivers. It is a pretty confident belief that you can't be a Crawford if you don't either bag a Wraith or love a Wraith. So I have 3 Wraiths in the bag that do a variety of things for me. One of them being the flippiest Wraith in my bag, which is a Star Wraith with that team stamp on it. This thing is easily the farthest flying disc in my bag, but it is also easily the most unreliable disc in my bag, if that makes sense. Because it's so beat in, I can either throw it on the perfect amount of hyzer and it's going to flip up to flat and even have some turn to it, and that happens on both forehand and backhand. But also, if I don't put enough hyzer on it, or I try to muscle it and throw it too hard, it's just gonna burn over and never have a chance of coming back, which means that I have to have another option in there, which is this yellow Star Wraith coming in at 169 grams. And this is a fantastic disc. I can throw it on forehand and know that it can flip up and give some turn to it pretty naturally, even if I kind of force it over sometimes accidentally on the forehand. But also on a smooth backhand, I can throw it on just a little bit of hyzer, maybe even some harder hyzer if I know I'm going to be hitting it pretty hard, and have it sort of flip up and turn a little bit. Just exactly what you'd be looking for out of a Wraith. I know that for the bigger arms, the Wraith is a straight flyer to an understable flyer, and because I don't have a significant amount of arm speed myself, this is like an ideal distance driver for me that's super friendly and goes pretty far and is very forgiving, and I'm just a huge fan of it, especially when you step up to the Halo plastic. I think a Halo plastic Wraith flies pretty similar to a stock Star Destroyer. I love having this in the bag because of the extra overstability that it brings. This Wraith serves me pretty reliably. I'm going to throw it on forehand mostly because I know that if I throw it flat, it's definitely going to go straight and have some hard fade at the end because of the extra stability of the Wraith. Now, one of the struggles when it comes to these Wraiths is because I'm making changes to my form, I know that if everything lines up and I hit my form smoothly and correctly, like my coach Mike Strauss is teaching me to do, the Wraith is going to struggle because I'm going to hit it with all the actual power necessary, and whereas I would rely maybe on a Halo plastic Wraith to go straight and still have that reliable fade on the end, hitting it correctly and doing the things that I'm supposed to do for proper form, I put so much power behind it. With a Halo Wraith, it's not going to come back at all, and on those Star Wraiths, they are going to be turning because I'm going to be hitting them with the proper spin, and even maybe more spin than necessary for the disc that I have, beaten in the state that I have. So because of that, I've actually added some destroyers to the bag to sort of fill that slot, especially if there's like a water hazard or something that I need to worry about. So closing out the bag for that exact reason is I have 4 destroyers in my bag. They are all in the Star plastic, with one of them being the Halo Star plastic. We'll go up most understable to most overstable, starting off with this Star Sharingan die. This is a Star Destroyer. It is an AJ3 line that I was not a collector back in the day, so I absolutely wiped the stamp right off of this thing, and it is my flippiest destroyer. But you're rarely going to see me throw this on a forehand, just because I would prefer to throw that black Halo Wraith and how that feels in my hand. But when I need a backhand that I know I need that fade, but I also can put everything behind and still get a good amount of distance, like 380 to 400, this is probably going to be my guy, so that I know I'm not going to like over smush it and cook it. Its overstable counterpart, we move up to the Renegon die, which is a Star Destroyer, and I love this thing. It is a meat hook, but as my arm speed has increased and I'm improving my form, I can also get this to hold pretty straight as well and know that it still has that reliable finish. The problem is that if I don't get a hold of it and I don't have good power, it's going to go like 350 tops and just absolutely fall out of the sky. It comes out a lot less than that red Sharingan die is going to come out, but it's nice to know that I have the comfort of this, especially like I said, when I know that I need the disc to fade if there's like water or OB. Next up, I have the super old AJ3 line. It was given by my older brother once I knew about the collector's market, so this guy hasn't had the stamp wiped from it, and it is like everything that I love about Star plastic. It feels so good. It is absolutely workable, and you would think with it being as beat in that it would be super flippy, but nah, that ain't the life of this destroyer. This is a forehand basically only destroyer that you're gonna see, and it is crazy overstable. I can throw it flat to this day and know that it's just gonna go straight and have some nice skip action if I throw it flat, or most often if I'm looking to shape like a flex forehand, I'm gonna pull this guy out because I know no matter what sort of headwinds and stuff that I'm throwing it into, that most often it's going to ride that anhyzer and still have some fade out at the end of its flight. Last but not least, the disc that is basically unusable unless the wind gets absolutely crazy or I need absolute utility is this Calvin Halo Destroyer. We can't be a Calvin fan and not have one of his destroyers in our bag, and this beautiful pink and white guy is absolutely the most overstable disc in my bag by far. It's beautiful, looks fantastic, and my hope is that as I can increase my arm speed and I'm throwing this more and more, that it'll beat in and it'll fill the slot of some other options. I love my lineup and I'm fairly confident that I'll always have at least one Wraith in my bag, but the hope is that as we move into the 2023 season and my form change becomes a little more solidified and I'm getting a hold of the disc more, that I'll have less of a need for a race in my bag and I'll maybe have one in there as like a flippy option, and it'll just be able to fill the bag with those destroyers that I get in different stages of wear and tear. Because even now I'm super worried about those race and turning them over, and when I have a lack of confidence in a disc, it just probably shouldn't be in the bag. Now, there are 3 discs that I didn't mention. They're going to have a pretty substantial role in my bag coming up in the future, but I don't have 2 of them right now, and the third is always in my car. The car disc is another Halo Polecat. As I mentioned before, I'm all about playing catch and warm up with a disc to get yourself loose, and this specific Halo Polecat, using it as a catch disc, has allowed me to not only beat it in without necessarily having to have it in the bag, but it gives me practice and reps in throwing a Halo Polecat so that I have more confidence while I'm on the course. The second disc is an alternative to the active premium Sensei that I have, and that is going to be the Glow Sensei that drops on October 13th by Discmania. Y'all, they feel incredible in my hand, and I think the added stability could either push one of the pigs out of the bag, or it might just replace that pink Sensei, especially if I season it in. And the third disc is going to be dropping in the near future. Be on the lookout for that, but it is definitely my boy Jesse at Trash Panda's Inner Core. Having thrown multiple versions of the prototype in a variety of plastics and getting to throw it when we were at the farm up in January or February, whenever that was, I knew that disc would be an absolute laser for me, so there is a definite chance that it's going to be making the bag, and I can't wait to throw it when it's released to the public, and ideally it's going to be the first ace that we have here on the channel. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed what's in the bag, both accessories and discs alike. Are there any discs that were a surprise to you that they are in the bag, or are there discs that you're surprised that they're not in the bag? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing your thoughts and ideas on what I should be trying here in the future. It truly is one of the biggest benefits of being an open bag player, is getting to try out and throw all of the amazing plastic that's out there, and I also love that I get to try stuff and unbiasedly recommend it to you. With all that said, I want to say thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in, and you should definitely, if you want one of those Robbie C patches, head over to Atlas Disc Golf Supply's website and check it out. There's going to be a link in the description below. The support that you guys continue to show is just unreal, and I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I hope you have an amazing rest of the week and that you can hopefully make it amazing for someone else too. But for now, I'm going to leave you with the birdie.